Hello! Houndsmen are a Golden Era archer unit unlockable via Season 10 challenges. You need to go through 4 tiers of challenges to fully unlock them. They play differently than other archers because their range is relatively low, and they have dogs. Like the Grey Hairs, Houndsmen are a mixed type unit which consists of 18 archers and 18 hounds, which act as a built-in frontline. It's very handy considering how often someone wants to dive your archers. The main strength of the Houndsmen lies in the multitude of special effects they can apply. If they hit someone with 3 arrows, they apply a short bleed which deals around 500 damage per tick for a total of 3000 damage. It has a few seconds cooldown, so you cannot keep it up on the same target all the time. Hounds, on the other hand, apply a strong 5-second debuff, which reduces damage by 30%, movement speed by 25%, and increases damage taken by 15%. The last one comes from the Veterancy, but you will get it regardless of your choice. Dogs also massively improve the bleed of the archers. The dog's bleed starts at around 1300 damage, which decreases over duration of the debuff to around 800. But the best thing is that it no longer has a cooldown, so you can reapply it all the time as long as the debuff is up and you keep hitting with the archers. Note that this bleed ticks every half second, so its damage output is huge. For comparison, it was always said that Namkan archers have a strong bleed, but the bleed of Houndsmen has 3 times higher damage per second. Let's move on to the skills, but before that please leave a like and subscribe if you find this video useful, thank you. The first skill of the Houndsmen is Hunting Stance. It has quite long animation, after which they quickly shoot 3 arrows. They can apply the bleed just like regular attacks and deal 12% more damage. Damage bonus comes from the Veterancy, but you will also get it regardless of your choice. This skill is very tricky to use, because Houndsmen choose their targets by themselves, and the choice is often questionable. They tend to shoot the walls or miss their targets a lot. Because of that, it works best against stationary targets in the open space or for picking corners. Hobbling shots is their second skill. It makes them shoot slowing arrows which reduce movement speed by around 30% for 3 seconds. These arrows do not trigger the bleed. Hobbling shots allows you to target an area, but your Houndsmen will track targets around it. It also makes your dogs charge towards the target, so make sure to keep an eye on them. If you hit a player who is under the effect of dog's debuff, the slow will increase to 55%. I'm quite sure that it's the same for cavalry, but if you hit the infantry, it will be rooted in place instead. Houndsmen fire 6 volleys of slowing arrows. If you use Hunting Stance during hobbling shots, they will triple shot slowing arrows with increased damage. If you use the Hunting Stance at the 5th volley, it will actually go over 6 volleys limit. Their third skill is Get 'em. It's basically the dog charge. Hounds will retreat after 4 seconds or if you reactivate the skill. If you issue no other commands and there will be no enemies in range, dogs will sit down after returning and quickly heal up to the max HP. To be honest, it rarely happens in regular matches because you keep moving your unit around. If you just need to heal up your dogs, you can charge and immediately use recall to trigger the healing, but you will waste a lot of ammo because archers keep shooting the spot you charge your dogs to, even after they retreat. By the way, if you run out of ammo, you can lead your dogs to supply point with the charge to resupply the arrows. One more interesting thing with the dog charge is that using it during hobbling shots will also trigger Hunting Stance. I'm not sure if it's a bug or missing description, but it's quite handy to get more damage with your shots. Let's move on to the Veterancy. As I mentioned earlier, there is some overlap between lines, so I will go straight to the differences. In the top line, you get stronger bleed, damage reduction, more movement speed and raw damage. Note that the bleed node works only for the base bleed. Heavy bleeding caused by dogs is not affected. The last node makes Hobbling Shot apply bleed just like regular attacks. In the bottom line, you get slightly longer dog debuff, lower cooldowns, more range and damage reduction for the dogs. In my opinion, the top line is just better. Houndsmen skills aren't that strong, so I don't think that reducing their cooldowns is important. Range nodes affect only hunting stance, and from my experience staying back and spamming it isn't that effective. And as for dog damage reduction, it kicks in only after impact, so dogs can be easily killed before that. Personally, I decided to stick with the top line. After all, you deal most of your damage with regular attacks, so making them even stronger makes sense. And you also get 15% damage reduction, which also keeps your dogs alive. Okay, time for the Doctrines. Just remember to leave a like and subscribe if you learned something new. Thank you. As an archer unit, Houndsmen have access to epic archer doctrines except for the arrow ray. They also have 3 unique ones: damage reduction, increased bleed damage, and increased duration of the dog debuff. Note that damage reduction works only for archers and bleed damage affects only base bleed. I would skip the range node because, like with Veterancy, it affects only hunting stance. Bleed doctrine also isn't that great because you already have a strong bleed and it does nothing if you use the dogs. I think that going for raw damage is just more useful. Currently I use increased dog debuff duration, breakthrough, siege fighter and 2nd and 4th archer doctrines. The other solid choices would be assassination, archer damage reduction and increased ammo. I have 2 more things I wanted to mention which didn't fit the above chapters. Houndsmen cannot operate siege engines nor climb ladders, and hounds die when all archers are gone. Alright, so how to play them? Keep your dogs alive. They will run off randomly and try to suicide somewhere, so you need to keep an eye on them. Sometimes they will refuse to go back when you recall them, so use X when you will see them circling. Using charge to move them back is also a good idea, because they will get increased movement speed. I always try to keep my archers in range of regular attacks. Sniping from the distance with the hunting stance might be tempting, but it's just not effective. Note that although hunting stance has rather slow animation, the amount of arrows Houndsmen will shoot in this time is the same as with regular attacks. Houndsmen excel at cleaning up the fight. The less the targets, the easier it is to stack the bleed and safer to charge your dogs. You will often rack up a lot of kills as soon as the enemy frontline drops. If there is a big fight going on, you should stay just on the edge of your range and keep shooting. Do not suicide your dogs. Save them for a cleanup or retreat. If someone tries to charge you, move archers out of the way and counter-charge with dogs. Do not try to stop them with Hobbling Shot, it won't work. It's better used to support your allies. Overall, they play a bit like muskets. You can't park them somewhere and lob arrows over buildings. You need to be close to the fight. The difference is they are squishy and require a lot of babysitting. I have been playing them a lot lately, and I can say that they have a lot of utility and killing power. However, due to lack of polish, they can be very frustrating to use. I had many great games where everything worked out perfectly, I got a lot of kills and so on. But sometimes the issues just pile up. Archers don't shoot where you want, or just stop shooting altogether. Dogs stop charging halfway and freeze, or go way ahead of where you ordered them. Houndsmen in their current state are just terribly inconsistent. I heard a lot of voices saying that they should be buffed. In my opinion, they should just fix their targeting, fix the dogs, and then we can assess if they are really that weak. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or on my Discord. Link is in the description. And now, click there for some Houndsmen gameplay.